Happy Friday, everybody.
Happy spring, more importantly. Here we are outside for the first time in 2019.
Yes, it's beautiful.
Squinting
and
in
it's going to be a gorgeous day tomorrow too, even better than today.
Oh wow! You know what? Like, what model do you use? Because it's always wrong every time I look up the weather.
Well, this one I just use Weather Channel. Models aren't good at doing so much in the temperature department.
Okay.
So it's a little more intricate, but it's actually going to be, I believe, around 76, 77. But it's gonna be nice, and you can see by the shaking of the camera that it's
how windy in my hair.
It's a little bit breezy.
Yes.
But anyway, we have some interesting stuff to talk about this Friday.
Yes,
one of those things is
the fact that the Empire Outlets is delayed again.
Yes, the Empire Outlets we're going to talk about. We're also going to talk about what everybody loves the most, obviously, through the viewership, is the monthly sales and stats report.
Yes, the monthly market snapshot, what's going on in Staten Island.
Right, you carefully assembled it.
I carefully assembled it. I put it all together.
She makes these beautiful.
It's on the internet for you.
She makes these
but it's
beautiful.
Also in a hard copy. Anyway.
The whole Florida thing.
Finish bragging about me?
Yeah.
Yes.
So anyway, this beautiful report now is online, correct?
Yes, on realestateSINY.com in the blog section, and I will be posting it on Facebook after this
Frank.
as well.
We've been criticized for not shouting out everybody. Sometimes it's kind of difficult to see, but Frank, how are you?
Yes.
I know it's definitely warmer in Florida than we're experiencing, but
it may be nicer here today, though.
Frank is actually a client of mine that I had years ago, going way back.
Now he's enjoying the
it seems like yesterday.
Florida sun.
Now he's enjoying the Florida sun, but it's nice to see.
I bet it's hot today.
So,
Florida.
Anyway, Empire Outlets and where home prices are going.
Yes,
so why don't you give us where they may be going from here.
Yeah, where they may be going, where they were in our most recent month of March, because obviously that's the data we have. April's not over yet. So home prices are down over last year, and that's the first time that's happened in the whole time that I've been writing these reports, because sellers keep saying that prices are up over last year, so they keep pricing higher, and now you can't even say that anymore.
Yes.
It's not significant though. It's about the same. It's $4,000 less than it was in March of 2018. So $570,000 was the average home sale price last month, and last year it was $574,000.
Yeah, that's we're back to numbers similar to where we were last year, which is not a horrible thing.
No, in certain ways it's healthier.
Yeah, I think it's one of the things that we've kind of said was kind of happening. Things have kind of tailed off a little bit, but it's kind of not been so bad. As far as what people would consider a tail off. Right,
it's really not going down in value at all, because $4,000 is pretty insignificant when you're talking about $570.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So it's not anything anyone should panic over, but it is important when you look at what people are listing their homes for versus what they're selling for, because that's a huge discrepancy.
Yeah, this is where we see the numbers, and I'll get into that number, where the public's perception of value is much faster than what the market dictates. And let's get into that number right here, which is new listings that are coming on the market now. The average new list price is $695,000.
Right, it's
and
more
as
than
a comparison,
more than what they're selling for.
Let's kind of build a correlation here for you. So let's just say at 695, average sale price is 570. Last year is 574, and the new list price then was 643,000. So it's significantly higher, the average new list price, but the average sale price is the same as it was last year, and our listings back then came on at 643.
So yeah, people are listing houses for $50,000 more than they were last year, but prices are down $4,000.
Right, exactly.
So, do you think this is the reason that only 261 homes sold in March, which is also a low of 2 years?
I think what you're having now, there's a couple of things that I want to kind of get into. Is one of them is inventory again continues on the rise. Okay, so we're talking about 1,947 listings on the market currently, compared to last year 1,648. So about a 200 plus difference between the two. A 200 unit difference.
So a lot of people would think that because there's more inventory, the sales would be up too.
Yes, that's not the case here.
Yeah.
For the first time in a while, things have strained quite a bit as far as the movement of the market. We could honestly say that there seems to be a little bit of a disconnect between what houses are coming on the market for, what's being suggested as a list price versus what's actually happening. And this is something that we could reflect in the current days on the market. Now, last month, for the first time, it went 3 digits, which is 100 days on the market. This month, it was down to 98, insignificant for the most part.
About the same, yeah.
So
although last year it was 95, so it was also high. But I think that was an outlier. 95 was like really high for last year.
So what you're seeing is houses are obviously staying on the market considerably longer than they were last year at this time, which was the current days on the market back then was 300.
No, it was 95.
95.
But all the other months around it were in the 80s.
Yes.
So it was more normal for 85 days on the market last year.
Yeah. So it's kind of like a statistical anomaly. But you want to say that for the most part that houses have stayed on the market considerably more.
On average, yeah.
The big thing that I also want to focus on is last year the amount of sold listings. This is something that I've had some significant issues with. In the past, in the last few months, it's been under 300. Now I have some concerns about that. I've always said 300 is kind of a benchmark you want to kind of stay within. So with that being said, with the benchmark being 300 sales a month on Staten Island, you want to
in the winter months.
Well,
winter
in the
and early
months,
spring.
You're talking about 300 has been the it hasn't been under 300 home sales on Staten Island in almost 4.5 to 5 years.
Yep.
Prior to last month. Now, for the second consecutive month, it's under 300. This being
way under 300.
Yeah, way under 300. 261, which is only 3 units more than it was last month. This is not an anomaly. This is a real hard number here that I'm looking at.
And just for comparison, March 2018, 1 year ago, it was 322 homes that sold. So that's a very significant difference.
Drop off. And that's where I'm seeing the big difference now. Now the big question about there's a little bit of change though that I have in kind of my prognosis for like what's going to happen with the real estate market. So one thing is when we did the first report, the 30-year interest rate was at 4.06. It was at 4.12 as your last check.
Yes.
So we have interest rates that are substantially lower than they were this time last year.
Yes.
Which I do believe is a positive, has a positive impact on home sales. It's kind of loud behind us. Hopefully you're not picking that up in the mic. But the big thing about that is that with this being said, do we have an improved buying market based on interest rates? And I have said before that I believe a lot of the real estate market locally has been interest rate dependent.
Yes.
So that means as interest rates fall and rise, there seems to be a correlation between the amount of sales. News-wise, things have been stable. The real estate market kind of correlates with the financial markets. Everything seems to be stable on that end. So
exactly, stable. It's not really rising or falling, and that's what's happening with the housing market
now. It's kind of similar to what's happening. The interesting to see is maybe in like July, because that's when the hard numbers will come in on any home sales this month. Is how much these interest rates will impact sales, which is something will play out. So let's see how that kind of works itself through, and then from that point we'll get a better or clearer understanding about. Mike, he's got my fraternity name up there.
Cahoots?
Yeah.
You were Cahoots?
Lord.
Cahoots Litzardella. I'm going to mess with you about that one later. Why are you Cahoots? Tell us.
That's a long story. It's college day stuff.
Funny one.
It still resonates.
It may not. Is it not work safe?
No, it's nothing bad. It's a place I had worked in as a kid. It was a clothing store that used to be.
That's hilarious.
Actually, in the Highland Shopping Plaza, and it seemed to be a big.
Going shopping at
It was
Cahoots,
a big guest during interviews. So
That's
but it was an interesting name, interesting place. But
your first job.
No, it wasn't my first. My first job, to be honest with you, was working at Roy Rogers.
Yeah, Roy Rogers, right?
Yeah.
You were like 15.
Yeah, I was 15 years old and I used to make the chicken.
I know.
Scary.
Humble beginnings.
Imagine you're a 15-year-old kid making your chicken. Anyway, it's a long story.
Upward mobility from there.
Yes.
Yes. Humble
We hope.
beginnings.
So getting back to
real estate.
let's get back to the stats here. So, so I really think that from last month to this month, it's kind of not been the best. And I think home sellers are definitely more frustrated about the time that it's taken on the market. But I'm telling you now, one of the things that you need to kind of consider at this point is that if you are priced accordingly and you're making the market adjustments to your price, where it's more reflective of what's going on in the market, the where people's heads are going with their price is actually counterintuitive to how to get the best price. So you need to pay attention to that. But they're just having a ball across the street.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Yeah. School got out probably.
Yeah, junior high school. But anyway, so you need to pay attention to that. It's important. Nationally, numbers seem to be in the same. They seem to be following national trends, which has been, I'd say, slightly down to average movement in the market. Nothing substantial to kind of get into, but it is down, and I want to make a note. It is down from last year by 4,000.
Sales are down a lot.
The average sale price is down to 570. It's just to give you an idea of where that stands off the high. The high was 599,999.
Yep.
Just
$1 shy of 600. And that was in winter of 2018, the very end of 2018.
Correct. So it's important to realize that, with the market being what it is, knowing where your price point should be. If you're going into the market, having a knowledgeable person who's actually going to reflect these things in the price, making sure you're getting the most for it. As this market changes, you're going to need to be very, very. This is not the same thing as it was a year ago, where you kind of put your house higher and then kind of work your way down. In a market like this, you want to be very careful about how you proceed in setting a list price within a certain expectation, because you'll actually do better because the expectations of the other sellers have been set way too high, that things are continuing to progress. It also really looks at, a lot of people will go, and we've talked about CMAs before, and CMAs being a suggested price or a value. CMAs go back 6 months in the height of the market. So you need to say, well, if the average trend is not going up, you shouldn't be looking at that and saying, well, if they got 575 and they got 580, that means I should be at 590 because the market trend is that way. You want to be within the realm, and you want to be competitive. So it's important to realize you are going to have to be introducing your home into a more competitive environment, and you need to
because active listings are up so much. You have more competition than you did last year.
So that's what you want to consider if you're going into the home. The good news is that New Jersey, where a lot of people are headed, they have the same issues that we have here. A lot more houses going on the market than selling. Because like I said, there's 600 houses going on the market, there's 200 being sold. This is going to accumulate to likely 2,500 homes within I'd say within the next, I wouldn't even say 12 months, I'd say by September. I'd give it September by the time we hit 2,500 homes on the market, for sure.
Well, and also sales will be going up in the next few months just because that's seasonal. So it's not going to be, well, I don't know if it's going to be under 300 in April. I would be surprised if it was that low, but summer is usually a lot busier. But more homes will be available for sale too.
Right now, the peak time is April. We're really starting to pick it up. April and May, when you talk about contracts, you go on to look at contracts in April and May. They're a good indicator of how rapidly the market is changing.
Yeah.
Or if there's going to be a substantial adjustment to be looked at as far as where our home prices are going or how robust the market is. This is the peak time. Yes, it runs through the summer months, I'd say till about maybe the first week of July. Kind of slows down a little bit through the summer into August, and then picks up. Then you get what I call the second peak, which is late August, September, October. So you get like these two,
like right
seasonal peaks that you want to see. where you see houses actually going into contract and being sold in. But that being said, you gotta have the knowledge behind. You need to be a little bit more diligent about what's going to happen with the sale price of a home.
And the list price.
Yeah, the list price and how that's going to correlate with getting the best results.
If you're pricing your house $125,000 over what it's actually worth, then that's going to be a problem for you.
Yeah, I mean, in general, I think most people are reasonable about it. I think most people are reasonable about it.
But that's not what this data looks like. 261 sales.
Well, that's, I think that well, we could talk about that a little bit. I mean, one of the things is that, a lot of people are going into someone's house as a real estate professional, and the first thing is they're getting me to list low so they could make a quick sale. It's the old, well, they're just going to tell me this, so they want to kind of, set the bar and use some of what I call that intrinsic value, some of that value that they see as being relevant to the sale. And some real estate people will actually go along with that premise, and then find out later that it's not working out. You really got to be aware of what's going on in that sense, and make sure that you are basically getting the best advice at that initiating stage, because you get a house that lays on the market now, it's different than it was a year ago.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, days on the market are up, inventory's up.
Yeah, I believe at one time it was days on the market was down to 68. It was insane.
Yeah, even in the last year we've seen that.
Yeah, 2 months. Now there's 2 months, over 3 months. So, I mean.
But just look at comps in your neighborhood, and if you're priced $100,000 over the comps in your neighborhood, then it's time for a reality check.
Yeah, and this is the old thing. I have the best house on the block. That doesn't necessarily correlate to a better value. It helps, but I don't think it correlates completely. And some people, they skew too much of the value on. Oh well, my house has been the best in the neighborhood. That's great. The neighborhood usually will. It's like I call it the curve in when they do test scores in college. Like everybody does good. They'll put it on the curve, but it's the higher grade goes down, the lower grades go up. So it's kind of like this is how a house that's the best house in the neighborhood or block kind of correlates with the value. So it's gonna be part of a curve more than it's gonna be a absolute. I paid $150,000 in renovations last year. I expect $175,000 back for the renovation. That's not going to happen.
Right.
So with that being said, it's important to really just pay attention to what you're being told at that appointment when you're going into that listing, and obviously you can always call us here for that. But I mean,
we'll give you the truth.
Yeah, you get the absolute truth.
The absolute truth. You're getting philosophical.
Yeah. So anyway.
So, but I also wanted to ask you, because the new property tax assessments came out this year, or last year rather, and a lot of people's taxes went up quite substantially. A lot of people were upset about it. So how do you think the property taxes going up actually affects buying and selling?
I think it's reasonable to expect that property taxes are going to be a factor. We hear it all the time. When buyers come into a market, they're going to ask me, hey, what's the price of the house and what's the taxes of the house? What's the HOA fees? What's the, is there an assessment on the property? These are things that are common people will ask, the agent to say, is it a factor? It's an absolute factor. How does it factor in? It's really to say it's part of the math that goes into whether they can afford the house. So it's going to have an impact. To the degree it has an impact, I think, we have to see how the interest rate fluctuates. But it's going to come down to how that monthly payment is going to affect that purchasing power of the buyer. So we want to look at that as being, there's definitely a cause and effect relationship. I'm certain of it. It's not scientific, but it's definitely something that's asked quite frequently.
Because obviously if a house is kind of on the cusp of not being affordable for somebody, the fact that the property taxes went up is going to kind of put that out of reach for them. So I'm sure that has an effect on how many bids are going to be made
Yes.
at any given month.
Sometimes I get distracted because behind us are obviously young kids. We're on
There's
Highland
some
Boulevard.
hooligans back
Yeah,
there.
well, I mean, they're driving through the traffic like crazily. So this.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. causing
Boy,
ruckus.
Gavolt.
Yeah.
They're
Oh,
popping
we don't even have to
wheelies
look.
on Highland Boulevard.
But,
Don't
I mean,
try that
yeah,
at home. Jeez.
If you have kids that are doing it, it's such an unsafe situation.
That's-
That's like completely.
Going against traffic.
Yeah,
My
they're
God.
going against traffic. They're stopping in front of cars. This has been a problem every time the weather seems to get nice on Staten Island.
I would call the cops, but I know they'd be gone by the time they come.
Yeah, it's been a problem. Staten Island. Last year there was a lot of incidents involving kids with bikes and harassing drivers and stopping short in front of them and things like this. And
Highland's not the place for that.
yeah, it's not. No,
really not.
No, there's another accident down the block with a pedestrian. It's.
We've
but
seen a couple
to
right
the
in front
parents
of
of
our
these kids, I mean, what,
No,
I don't
guess
know.
they're in
kind
that
of,
rebellious
kind of a wild
age.
situation. But anyway, let's not get into that too much. But now we get into the other topic. The topic of topics on Staten Island, which is
In the real estate commercial community is
reeling once again.
delay number 5 for the Empire Outlets Mall, which initially was supposed to open in 2017. So we are now 2 years pushed back, and
2 years.
several Black Fridays later, here we are again delayed until
this
May,
is,
and probably will not be the last delay, in my opinion.
I mean, you did some research on this. I mean, is there anything that correlates? Is it construction that's causing the delays, or is it?
The last delay, I believe, was a construction delay. Of course, the official statement, may or may not be the whole truth, but a spokesman.
The official statement.
A spokesman for the Empire Outlets says that this time the delay is to give these stores, they have over 100 retailers that are signing leases, to give these stores a little bit longer to actually be open when the mall opens. Because as we talked about this in another live video before, they were going to be opening all the stores in phases between April and August, with Nordstrom Rack opening in July. That's like the flagship store. They're still going to be doing that, but I guess they're waiting until more stores are open to cut the ribbon.
I mean, for anybody that's watching, I don't know what you want to weigh in on that. Do you ever think that this project is going to happen?
Or if or when is it
Hannah
going to happen.
and she debates that, I'm a bit of a fatalist when it comes to these
Totally
projects.
a fatalist.
Hey, listen, I've been right on these more than I've
And
been wrong.
listen, well, with the wheel, that was a different story because this much of the wheel got built. So, kind of saw that coming.
Is it this much of the of Empire Outlets get built?
Empire Outlets has been built.
I think that I don't want to be.
The outside
I don't want
structure
to
is
be.
mostly
I don't want
done.
to be.
There is construction outside, but it's the buildings themselves are pretty much complete at this point. But the stores aren't. It's a big project.
I mean, but do you think? I've kind of made this a point in the past about this particular development. Does it? Which one? The North Shore? Yes, the North Shore. Yes, the one
by
Empire
the
Outlets
ferry.
would be the one by the ferry, next to the wheel, the now defunct wheel, and the now
base of the wheel. That's all we got.
and now the overly skeptical scenario that's happening with this particular project. We're kind of discussing that.
Right, and that
with
wasn't a
Latika.
surprise at all that it got delayed again.
Is it?
By the way.
I mean, could it be this construction delays is the question. And this is, it's like, I mean, we're not, when I talk 6 months, we're not talking about 10 months, we're not even talking 18 months. We're talking like we're going on
2 years.
24 months plus
Of
delays. And the question becomes is I don't understand what the announcement part of this is. Like, they're very eager to announce openings
And re-announce them.
and re-announce it.
Well, think about it. I mean,
well, first of all,
there's been
let's
construction delays for
let's call
years
it for what
now.
it is. It's a public relations nightmare, regardless. Because I don't know. My
That's
thing
why,
is
if
that
it is a construction delay, that's an embarrassment for them, and they're not going to want to admit it.
well, from a public relations standpoint, you want to say it's like the boy who cried wolf.
Yeah, I know. It's getting to the point. I think everyone's like raising their eyebrows, like, what?
I mean, when they do announce that it actually opens, will anybody come?
And I
that's
think
the question.
with a project
I
of
mean, I
this
don't know.
scale,
It's
I
kind
think a delay here and there is normal. That probably happens all the time. Like 2 delays, maybe 1 delay, 2 delays. We're talking about 2 years and 5 separate times. So it's starting to get to be like, you know, I hate to be the person to have to announce that again and again.
The real question is what I'm kind of hedging bets here. I don't have inside information or anything like that. But does the wheels impact maybe these retailers second guessing their decision about moving there, and kind of like working through leases and readjusting leases, or whether these leases are actually going to come to fruition or shortening the term.
Do some investigative reporting.
I mean, that's but you know that investigative reporting.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not in the business of investigative.
No,
reporting.
I know. I'm kidding.
You start
There's
to build a
definitely-
correlation.
there's more than
between,
meets the eye,
Yeah,
I
I mean,
think.
it's like okay, you know, sometimes a construction will delay itself because a lease is not finalized. So the landlord will not complete the project without some guarantees that the tenant's going to move in, which is something that I have kind of said that this may be an issue here. There's a lot of delays. I'm sorry, Latika, I can't read that.
It says, yes, I agree. There's lots of delays. I do wonder how business will do. Not much excitement.
Yeah, I mean, that's the public relations angle of this is probably the worst part of it. So I would definitely say that with the public relations end, these false starts is going to create a sense of, here we go again. It's not something that this project needs. I mean, that's the real like kind of fly in the ointment on this. It does happen.
This is like a $600 million project. I mean, the amount of money invested, and it's also
it's wild.
Some public, I think about $50 million in taxpayer money being invested in this.
I mean, the taxpayer money. I mean, I want you to kind of, for the people that don't know this, the project is actually built on New York City property. So it is a New York City Economic Development Corporation is the ground lease for this property. It's I believe it's 100 years on the ground lease.
Wow.
Yeah. So I mean, it's substantial in the sense that I mean, it's an issue. I mean, it just. I'm not saying that's not going to happen. I'm not. The question becomes is the boondoggle that's happened down there, and I'm going to say this. It's kind of flew under the radar. A lot of people who have done some of the reporting on this, and you know, I'm not going to say the advance says it, but you know, I see a lot of fluff and not a lot of stuff when it comes to the like what. Let someone needs to figure it out. I mean, it's insane. I mean, it's really, you think about it, it's something that you really need to consider as being like, could this be really happening? I mean, it's St. George. Goodness, I've been on Staten Island now for over 4 decades, and I'm telling you now, St. George is the
land of promises, broken promises.
Yeah, it's like it never wants to get. It never gets either started or never gets finished. And like even when Staten Island Yankees Stadium, there was a lot of you know hype about it, and a lot of gentrification and things like this.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it necessarily panned out. I
and
think
it's
they will
that
open eventually, but they will not. I doubt there'll be much success. Well, that's another issue.
Right. It's so huge. I mean, it's hard to imagine every store in there being successful. That's just. It could end up being a half-filled mall with some success. That's kind of my prediction. Is that a lot of the?
I just hope it doesn't become one of those YouTube videos of
the abandoned malls. Oh, good gracious!
No, but like
the ones that are in like zombie movies and stuff.
I mean, it's really when you the breadth of it's really kind of it's the amount of money. Right, that project you said is $600 million.
Yeah.
And the wheel project is $1.2 billion spent.
No, they didn't spend that much.
No, between the wheel and this.
Yeah. And then there's Lighthouse Point, which is another shopping center.
Oh, lighthouse. Is there any? Do you have any? That I'm not sure.
That
I need
to. I need to read up on it. It's kind of in the shadow because it's so much smaller than Empire Outlets, so there hasn't been as much news coverage. But I think that one's coming along.
The hotel is coming up. I know the
hotel is. It's by the National Lighthouse Museum, which has been open for a little while.
I haven't been down there.
I haven't been there.
We'll do some looks into that and see. We'll see if anything's actually happening. We'll fly a drone over it.
You should.
Let's just get a progress drone.
A little snapshot. Yeah, because we have New St. George, but you didn't really go to the outlet mall.
Yeah, I mean it's just
buzz around up there.
Do a circle, around that place, and just, but it's really profoundly upsetting to Staten Islanders. I did happen to see the Facebook post that the delay was on Facebook on the SI Live page.
Yeah.
And the comments,
like right before it was supposed to
open.
open.
The comments were absolutely.
Staten Islanders
were not very pretty in their assessment.
Yeah, don't go to the comment section on SI Live ever. That's just a rabbit hole you don't want to go down.
You just got to go there to laugh.
Now people are going to go because they
it's
said
really
not to.
Wild stuff. But I mean, I just think that at a certain point they got to bring this down to the ground. And the real question is like, I don't think we're getting the answers. What's the answer here? We're always left with questions. We're never left with an answer, and nobody's really stepping forward and saying, "Folks, I'm gonna," there's got to be accountability to a degree on the city's part to step in and say, like, okay, this is the EDC you're leasing from. Why is this happening? And let's be honest about it. Let's be honest about the assessment. Is renting space an issue because of the wheel? Is people having questions about the viability? If they do,
I think there
I
have
think
been
Staten Island people owe an explanation as to what the plan would be in that event.
I think there's been delays with regulations and safety measures from the city too. It's kind of just been a lot of problems.
$600 million. Yeah, well, I mean, that's true. Regulations with the city is not easy.
It's been halted, I think, in the past because of not being up to code.
That's why you need consultants,
like
right?
You need, well, I'm sure they have consultants, but apparently their consultants need some more information. Need some better consulting.
But I don't want to say it. So anyway, with the Empire Outlets, I think personally, the chapter on that is not closed, and I think it's as close as it may seem. There's still a lot of pages left.
I'm expecting another delay before it's ready, but it didn't surprise me at all because if you walk outside, it doesn't look anywhere near like it's actually ready to open.
Well, Hannah's really excited. We talked about this last week, and she's really excited about the fact that it's kind of like outdoors. So she said she'll order online from like the deck, and then like they'll actually hand deliver it up
order
to the,
online. No, I don't know. I don't know about
she has to wait on the line. I'm just kidding.
No, I'm cheap like that. I'd rather just go order it myself and not pay the delivery fee.
So, but what do you think? The Amazon effect will have anything on this?
I don't like to buy. I don't ever buy clothes on Amazon. I'm going to be honest with you. I asked a couple of my friends who also told me they prefer to try clothes on in person. So it's not this thing where everyone buys their clothing online. Shoes, I never buy online.
There's apps now that actually start measuring you. You could actually.
If those work, they're not very effective yet because I was watching some YouTube videos about them.
Yes.
They're expensive too. It's like this suit that you put on that's got dots all over it that's supposed to align with your figure. But it's, when they get the clothes, they don't fit as well as they expect them to. It's in its infancy, but it's cool technology. I think it's going to improve.
It's an app, right?
It's you have to order the suit. I think it's called the Zot suit or something. It's like a black leotard.
The Zot.
It's a black leotard. It's got all these like little sensor dots, and then you have to take pictures of yourself in it and then send that in. And then they send you clothing that's supposed to fit your figure.
And that data will now be part of the NSA catch. Your proportions will be owned by somebody.
Yeah, I'm sure that's very interesting information to the government. If you're 34, 26, 54.
But anyway, the Gringos is closed. Latika said Gringos is closed.
No, it was right after the Christmas party that you had there.
Yes.
It was like like 2 months later, it was closed. So
That's
It's a shame.
Irby.
yeah, it's in Irby. It had like an arcade in it. I was gonna go check it out, and I didn't get a chance to.
Yes. But anyway, why don't you just give a rundown highlight of the numbers once for everybody, so that before we sign off.
Before we sign off, yes. So to recap, average sale price down to $570. Last year it was $574. Previous month it was $583, and at its height it was $599. So it's actually down.
$999.
Yes, it's actually down $30,000 from its height, which is pretty significant. New list price was $695. $145,000 higher than the sale price.
Yeah.
And last year was $643. So
that's not adjusting accordingly.
yeah, it's not a good ratio, list to sale price. Oh, and also we didn't even touch on the list to sale ratio is down from last year also. So it's 96.2% of list price compared to the sale price. Last year it was 96.8%. So
yeah, just to kind of go list to sell price is the price being offered against the list price being
the final sale price. Yeah.
Right. So it's what's being accepted by the homeowner as a
right, which is always below 100%. Pretty much.
And at one time it was at 98 point.
Yeah, it was almost 99% at one point.
Yeah, it's like basically no discount.
Pretty close to 100, yeah.
But it's a trailing indicator. People should monitor that.
They should. The active listings are now almost 2,000. It's 1947 is how many homes are for sale. Last year was 1648. So we're talking about 300 more homes.
Yes, you see a lot more signs.
Yeah, in certain neighborhoods, luxury homes especially.
Your luxury market
for a long time
is rather trepidatious.
It's slow. Yeah, anything under 500 still usually goes pretty fast though.
Mm-hmm.
Sold listings was only 261. Last year it was 322. So 70 less homes sold this year.
Not quite below the Mendoza line, but 261 sales. Just kind of put that in perspective. That is the two consecutive months under 300 sales on Staten Island, something that hasn't happened in quite a few years.
Yes, in several years. And finally, new listings are also up. 630 homes were listed for sale last month. Last year it was 603. So more homes are being listed. They're being listed for higher, and there is more inventory sitting on the market. Hence the lower
Be aggressive and listen. Do not, folks, I cannot tell you this enough. If this is home selling season, there's people contemplating it. You need to, sometimes the person that tells you the least things that you want to hear is the best person for the job.
Yes, the most honest agent and the smartest, most informed one should know this stuff. If this is their job, that's the agent that you want to hire, because they're going to get your home sold.
What's not going to, I mean, obviously highlighting the good parts, but highlighting the parts that aren't going to get the job done is something that you do need to pay attention to.
Because if they're honest, then your house is going to get sold, and if they're...
I've seen people literally get offended. I mean, they get offended. They're like, what do you mean this? You can't sell my house. It's not,
Or they won't lower it. They refuse to lower the price. And
I think that initiating thing is like, it's a tightrope to walk between, like, are they going to get offended enough to say, it's not going to work out for me? But you want to hear the things that you don't necessarily want to hear, but that's usually they're making an honest assessment.
And it's going to ultimately save you a lot more time and money if you do price your home accordingly, rather than the heartache of leaving it up, not selling. The public can see that, folks.
Right.
All records are online now. It's not hard to find. They can see how long it's been sitting on the market, so that's not a good look.
No, it's not. Definitely not. But anyway, that is what we're going to close with today. We'll be back shortly, I assume within the next couple of weeks.
Yep.
And
we're going to be talking about how to go about buying your first home. That's going to be the title of our next video. New home buyers.
New home buyers, which is the market's starting to pick up for you guys. Millennials are definitely in the
They're
mix.
the largest home buying group currently.
You're in the
Although
millennial group,
probably,
right?
yes, but probably not in New York. I would not imagine it's the largest group of home buyers. But nationally, millennials are leading home purchases at the moment.
Means that millennials are finally getting jobs.
Off their parents' couch, the men especially.
Oh, geez, here we go. With that, we'll end on that note. Till next time, we'll see you. Hopefully you enjoyed this. If you have a
for
question, drop it in there. Drop it in the comment section. We'll get
Yep.
an answer for you. And
Or send us a message. And also look out for the stats report on Facebook as well. I'm going
Yes.
to put it up right after this.
It's beautiful.
Reasons to sell with us. And our...
The stats.
Yep.
You can get it there. But anyway, have a great weekend, everybody. Enjoy the weather tomorrow. It should be a absolutely
Should be
lovely
a
day.
gas.
Yes. Signing off.
Ciao.
Have a good weekend.
Have a good weekend.